What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and it's an understatement to say that Disney has been doing pretty poorly this year. Tons of their movies are flopping, they've lost hundreds of millions when it comes to failed projects like their Star Wars hotel, and in general, their stocks are dropping fast. So yes, Disney is screwed, dear viewer, but somehow for a company so mismanaged and ruined, they now have an even bigger problem than their own reputation. And that is the looming threat of a hostile takeover that could remove CEO Bob Iger from power well before his expected departure, which is currently set for 2026. Yeah, that's right, the guy who's driven Disney into the grave is expected to have complete control over the company for at least 3 more years. So every moronic decision needs to get greenlit by someone, of course, and that guy is Bob Iger. If you hate Rachel Zegler's Snow White, the continued demise of Marvel and Star Wars, really any of it, you can of course blame Kathleen Kennedy like South Park did, or Kevin Feige for Marvel's demise too. But no matter what route you take to find out Disney's core problem, all the roads will lead to former weatherman Bob Iger. I'll also talk about some other stuff like Gina Carano roasting Disney and more later on. Anyway, let's begin with this article from Bounding Into Comics that's titled, Ike Perlmutter deepens his alliance with Nelson Peltz, hands Disney stock over as Peltz wants to refocus the creative engine to drive profitable growth. In order to understand the lore behind this ongoing war between Disney and others, I gotta catch you up to speed. So, there's a billionaire businessman named Ike Perlmutter. He sold Marvel to Disney back in 2009 for a bunch of money. This gave Ike a bunch of shares in Disney, and he was kicked out by Disney's executives earlier this year amidst all those layoffs that they did. You know, the ones where Disney cut thousands of jobs because God forbid the executives actually lose their jobs due to their own moronic decisions, but of course, like any company, it's the common man who gets the axe instead. While all of that is typical awful corporate nonsense, Ike Perlmutter has been salty since he got Spartan kicked into the pit by Bob Iger, Kevin Feige, and the rest of Disney's yes men. Now Ike is back with a raging hard-on to enact righteous vengeance upon Disney's executives. And this time he's partnered with another billionaire group called the Trian Fund Management. This other billionaire-owned team is owned by Nelson Peltz, another guy who's a billionaire. So now you got 2 billionaires joining forces using Ike's massive stake in Disney in order to enact a proxy war on Disney. Ike and Nelson are trying to force their massive stake in Disney shares to force the board of directors into bending the knee, not through virtue signaling, but sheer financial might. They are demanding actual physical seats at the executive table, the same table Ike Perlmutter was fired from back in March 2023. Also, why was Ike fired, you might be asking? Well, Ike has been the chairman of Marvel Entertainment for a very long time. All the hit movies you've likely seen from Endgame, Captain America, Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, the movies that actually made money, they were under Ike's watchful eye. Anyway, Ike got physically removed from Disney by the executives because his view of what Disney should be prioritizing was no longer something the yes men and Bob Iger agreed with. Ike advocated to reduce the budget and run times of Marvel movies, claiming their budgets were overblown and were oftentimes bloated in order to keep audiences in their seats. He wanted to make Marvel's movies into more streamlined, efficient endeavors that didn't waste customers' time and were actually worth watching. Again, this is the guy who was in charge of making stuff like Infinity War, so clearly when Marvel was under his wing, of course it wasn't perfect. After all, nothing is, but let's be real, when you compare Marvel pre-2020 to now, it's not even a contest in terms of public interest and profits. Marvel during the 2016 to 2019 era was like a money printing machine. Civil War made $1 billion, Infinity War made $2 billion, Endgame was like $2.5 billion. I'm not good at math, but that's a lot of money, fellas, and Ike was instrumental in making those things a reality. But I think what Ike says here is key to why this proxy war is happening, where he said, I have no doubt that my termination was based on fundamental differences in business between my thinking and Disney leadership, because I care about return on investment. Aha, there it is, dear viewer. There it is. You see, return on investment, or ROI, isn't really something Disney has been known to be interested in when it comes to most things they've made from 2020 to, well, now anyway. A lot of their content, as I'm sure you're aware, has gone down the path of virtuous idiocy. And this is why their movies, shows, and really anything using their brand has been diluting in quality at a staggering pace. Basically, Ike Perlmutter is more interested in giving the customer what they want and how they want it in order to make money so he can be richer. Which, I mean, you can't blame the guy, you can call him greedy, but he's a businessman and it would be moronic to not give your audience what they want. Disney, however, of course, is far more interested in pushing the message and ensuring everything is diverse and panders in every conceivable way imaginable. So, that's why this proxy war is happening. You got two old guys joining forces telling Disney, look you idiots are driving this gold mine into the dirt in order to push stupid pronouns and stuff that doesn't make money. And then you got Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige that are over there saying ESG and cultural impact is more important than turning a profit. And that's how a company like Disney goes from making Infinity War to, well, the Marvels. If anything, the dramatic turnaround on Disney's quality output these past few years proves that Ike and Nelson are right. Or at least when it comes to their argument that Disney is bleeding money, because they are. You don't need to be too smart to take one look at Disney and go, yeah, this company stinks right now. They've been releasing certified flops in a row. And their future movies this year, like The Marvels and Wish, are also projected to flop as well. Which doesn't surprise anyone with a functioning brain that hasn't been infected by the mind virus. But it's crazy to see how fast things are changing when it comes to the partnership between those who actually made Disney money and those who are far more interested in activism over actual profits. Back in February 2023, a month before Disney roundhouse kicked Ike Perlmutter out the front door, things seem to have been going good, at least somewhat okay, between Ike and Nelson and Disney. Nelson Peltz's company Tryon even said back then via their statement, and I quote, "We congratulate Disney and Bob Iger on their recently announced operating initiatives, which are a win for all shareholders and broadly align with our thinking. We are pleased with the role that Tryon was able to play in helping to focus the board to take decisive actions which we believe will lead to better financial results. We were also pleased to see the company's pledge to restore the dividend. Accordingly, we are withdrawing our nomination of Nelson Peltz as a director to allow the board and Disney's leadership team to focus on creating long-term shareholder value without the distraction of a proxy contest. Now it's about execution and ensuring best-in-class corporate governance going forward. We will be watching and rooting for the company's success," end quote. So that previous proxy war ended with Peltz and Ike being lied to by Disney that their views would be respected, and their efforts to steer Disney back on track would be taken into consideration. Then Disney suplexed Ike out of nowhere, and now we're witnessing the Disney Proxy War 2.0 in real time. Ike and Nelson are not looking for a single seat at the table apparently, they want multiple seats. They want to be breathing down Bob Iger's neck. They want to be sitting so close that they can smell the sweat of desperation on Kathleen Kennedy. These guys are waving their financial dicks around so much, the endgame plan here is to basically enact a hostile takeover of Disney from the inside out. And for two billionaires that currently have literal billions in stock invested in Disney, if they end up getting what they want, Iger and Kennedy are even more screwed. Because before they could pander behind closed doors, now Ike and Nelson would be in the room with them while they decide how to make their next flop more lame and inclusive. Ike Perlmutter even openly stated what his plans are, and they continue on from what I said a little bit earlier in this video. So I'll just repeat the entirety of what Ike said, and I quote, "I have no doubt that my termination was based on fundamental differences in business between my thinking and Disney leadership. Because I care about return on investment. All they talk about is box office, box office. I care about the bottom line. I don't care how big the box office is, only people in Hollywood talk about box office. While I was a Disney employee, I was not comfortable publicly stating my views on the company and its performance. As someone with a large economic interest in Disney's success, I can no longer watch the business underachieve its great potential," end quote. Honestly, what Ike is saying here makes sense. It's like watching a 5-star restaurant that just goes under because the people in charge can't even make scrambled eggs right. And they're more interested in the diversity of their staff and the messaging on their walls than making stuff that makes them money. I mean, sure, I guess it's cool that your restaurant has a they-them bartender, but if the drinks in your restaurant taste bad and your food is garbage, nobody's gonna come back. And Ike is currently watching his golden goose get cooked while he stands outside in the rain, screaming profanities when it should all be so simple to fix. But it's key what Ike said there, that he openly states when he was at Disney, he was not comfortable with publicly stating his views on the performance of the company. This, my friends, is the classic makings what we like to call an echo chamber, where everybody who has a seat at Disney's big boy table are either yes men or morons who drank so much of the Kool-Aid, they can no longer be trusted to actually understand what's actually good for the company and what isn't. I know I've talked about it a bunch already in previous videos, but South Park's Panderverse recreation of Disney's board is pretty much what it is. It's a bunch of people afraid to speak up in fear of losing their positions. and figureheads like Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy doing everything in their power in order to keep abusing that power. And like I said, Bob Iger is responsible for everything that is wrong with Disney. He's the guy who has to sign off on these things before they become reality. So whatever moronic decisions you see going on over at Disney, remember that it's Bobby Boy who thought it was a great idea at the time. And if Ike and Nelson end up being successful in their endeavors, not only could they eventually have multiple seats at the table, they could actually end up owning the table. And if that happens, the hostile takeover of Disney would be complete. And Disney would, in theory, no longer be able to push woke nonsense the way they have in the past, because it would finally be under the control of actual responsible adults, who would use Disney's vast library of IPs and brands to make money instead of, pander. And since the whole South Park thing happened, Gina Carano decided to air out some dirty laundry. A refresher in case you forgot, Gina played Cara Dune, the badass woman on Mandalorian, until she was fired because of her views. Now that South Park roasted Kathleen, Gina decided to talk about it. She said, and I quote, "This is the part where Kathleen Kennedy demands any YouTubers get censored off of YouTube for sharing and laughing at this hilarious episode. She'll have YouTube disable the thumbs down option because of the ratio she'll receive. Then she'll have her publicist ghouls make sure Variety and Hollywood Reporter run hit pieces about the South Park creators, and their families, smearing their names through every useful idiot she has under her thumb who would sell their soul to work for Lucasfilm. She'll activate her online mob to repeat that the South Park creators are racist, bigots, transphobes, and demand the South Park creators publicly apologize by only using words she approves of. Finally, she'll demand they subject themselves to a re-education course of 45 people in the LGBT community Zoom call to sit there and listen of how badly they got their feelings hurt all over a little boop of a South Park episode. But maybe, just maybe, the jig is up." End quote. Some people see what Gina said about KK and might think, oh, she's just being salty about her firing, but it turns out it's anything but that actually. Then a podcast called Around the Galaxy, which I never heard of until right now, decided to prove Gina right by pandering and protecting Kathleen by saying, "In case you were wondering, Gina Carano has lost her goddamn mind." Then Gina Carano read what this podcast said and, oh boy, and I quote, "Do you always call a woman crazy just because she has more first-hand experience than you and says something you don't like or understand? Bit misogynistic, don't you think? Curious if your overlords pay you, or do y'all just go ahead and shove your whole head straight up their asses for free? I'm guessing for free. Might want to come out for some fresh air, for some added context, not just for you, but for the people reading. One of the things your overlords asked me to do was to unfollow certain accounts because they said bad things about Kathleen Kennedy. That was a huge red flag for me. If I were the head of one of the most powerful entertainment companies in the world, I would know that haters come with the territory and that maybe the haters are expressing their thoughts because they actually care, and caring is a good thing because as long as they care, well, hey, we still have something to work with. Maybe we can win their hearts back eventually, and maybe they do have some good things to add to the conversations, which they do and did. And at the very least, they are still buying the product. Look at Mando Season 1. Boom, the healing had begun. If you were a proper good leader, you learned how to embrace and communicate, not dictate and silence and demand your actors and directors unfollow and shame more than half of your fan base and the people who have stuck with the franchise for decades. Side note, don't say the Force is female and then allow only the men to express their political views online. In fact, just drop the ridiculous phrase completely. One of the problems your overlords are having now is that they've made a lot of people completely stop caring about one of the most beloved franchises in history, all by bullying, pushing aggressive agendas, and trying to silence the people criticizing them. How are they able to tell stories they don't understand when the ones they identify with are the Empire? They are literally trying to squash the little guys, the rebellion. No wonder the storytelling is struggling. They fired and dehumanized people like me who did absolutely nothing wrong, all to virtue signal to people like you, the yes men. But yes men, unfortunately for you and them, do not drive culture. Maybe they were banking on the kids picking up the slack, but one of the best things about this franchise is passing it from generation to share. The competition is too high to throw out something as valuable as that. Why would one generation pass it on when you've disrespected and thrown them away? Your overlords tried to hide behind the two opposing fan bases fighting each other instead of taking responsibility. So they encourage the hate, all while virtue signaling they are standing up for minorities, but instead using them as a shield and weapon. Funny enough just how our government works. They think people will forget, and yes, maybe they will, but for this moment they have heard the people's voice and it shook them. They're choosing to stick with their weak leadership who couldn't handle YouTubers saying mean things online, when all it would have taken is a true leader to step in, take the reins, take some responsibility, stop discriminating, apologize about the things they have done wrong, step completely out of politics, be truly inclusive, and they'd be back in business. Until then, they're stuck with you, the yes men, and their plummeting stock. I'm not saying I'm right on all fronts, but I am open-hearted and refuse to discriminate based off of powerful people telling me how to think and act. And if there was one thing I need to apologize for, I would have in a heartbeat, but I didn't say or do anything wrong. People come up to me daily to shake my hand and thank me for taking a stand, even people who think differently. One thing is true, good leadership makes for a better world, leading to healthier and happier people and better opportunity. Look around, we are watching the devastating effects of what bad leadership can do worldwide." End quote. Good lord, Gina went in, and really, who are you gonna believe? Some podcast that shows for Disney in order to get pre-access to the latest slop episode from their streaming service? Or the woman who actually worked with these people and obviously would have seen how insane it was behind the scenes? Gina Carano was the moment for me anyway that Disney really started to lose the fans. Sure, you could argue The Last Jedi, which I think started the culture war in a lot of ways when it comes to Disney, but Gina's firing was nuclear. Removing her beloved character, which was an authentic, strong representation of what a military woman would be like, was impossible to ignore. And her confirmation of these things is just icing on the cake, as it confirms what many people believed for so long. Gina Carano was right, and she was wrongfully terminated. And I'll never stop defending her, because what they did to her is proof that when you step out of line, you get crucified. And like Gina, Ike Perlmutter is someone else who's been a victim of Disney's power grab. And it's great to see that people like him are fighting back where it will genuinely hurt Disney. Now, is Ike and Nelson going to be better than Bob Iger and Kennedy? I don't know. But we have to at least agree that where we are right now isn't working. And a monkey with lipstick on could be better than Kathleen Kennedy, for the love of God, at this point. Finally, this info came out as I was writing. It's quick and it's titled, "Nuclear Bomb Full of Emails and Notes Detailing Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm Story Groups Discussing Behavior to be Released." YouTuber Drunk 3PO stated on their channel that the day is coming, and I know the day is coming where there is a lot of emails. There is a lot of notes that someone has collected, and when you see this, it will blow your face off as to how disgusting this woman is. Kathleen Kennedy and the people running Lucasfilm, especially over there at the storyboard group. So if you guys just got a little taste of what's to come, again, there's something. There's a nuclear bomb that's coming, and just be ready. All of our YouTube channels will benefit once this stuff hits. Well, there you have it. Obviously, I don't know what he's hinting at exactly here, but I guess stay tuned, dear viewer. If this rumor ends up amounting to what 3PO is saying, as they say in the movies, hold on to your butts. But for now, I think this video is long enough. I appreciate you for spending your time watching this, and I hope it was able to bring you up to speed on the hostile war over at Disney right now. Remember to keep your head clear, exercise, take care of yourselves, friends, have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for being here. Subscribe if you like the video if you enjoyed it, and my G Fuel code is there if you want 20% off. Thank you for everything, and I'll see you in the next one.